So before I get started on this video, I want to take the time out to apologize in advance for anything that I may say throughout the course of the video that you may find offensive, if I cuss, if anything that I say that's insensitive. The thing about it is that I'm very, very, very passionate about breastfeeding, and the only way that I can make this video as real as possible is to just speak from my heart. Anyway, a little bit about me. I have 4 kids. And all of them are breastfed for 2 years. Well, my youngest, she's 19 months, so I've been breastfeeding her for 19 months, and I will probably stop around 2. So collectively, I've done almost 8 years in breastfeeding. My son, who's my firstborn, he's the only one who had formula. He had 1 bottle of formula because after my C-section, I wasn't able to wake up. I was knocked out for like 16 hours, and they needed to feed him. He needed to eat, so they gave him formula. But as soon as I came back, I begun breastfeeding him, and that was it. The one thing that I found funny was that when I was pregnant with my first, I read all of the books. I read all of the what to expect when you're expecting, different breastfeeding blogs, not blogs, different breastfeeding books, and anything else, and I would talk to people about it. And let me tell you, once I started breastfeeding him, the thing that popped up in my mind was, this shit is nothing like what I read. In the books that I would read and things that people would tell me, they'll be like, well, it doesn't hurt, and breastfeeding is so wonderful, and you're going to love it, and blah, blah, blah. And even the lactation consultant was telling me that it doesn't hurt. And if it's hurting me, then I'm doing it incorrectly. And the truth of the matter is that breastfeeding hurts like hell. In the beginning, it hurts so bad to the point where you might have tears falling from your face. Your toes would be curling. You would do Lamaze breathing. Whatever it is that you can do to get you through it is what you need to do. I remember when my sister had a baby, and it was right after I had my third. My daughter was about a year old, and I went to the hospital, and I was standing in the corner, and they brought her baby out, and they said it was feeding time. And so as soon as they brought the baby out, I had like this grin, like a very evil grin. And I'm standing in the corner, and she's looking at me like, what are you grinning at? Because I already knew that it's about time for her to feed her daughter. So I'm standing there grinning, and I'm like rubbing my hands together, like I can't wait to see what happens. And so they bring her daughter, and the baby latches on, and her toes curl, and she looks up, and she's like deep breathing, and she's going, and she's going like that. And I couldn't hold my grin back anymore, and I start busting up laughing. And it's not that I'm laughing at her pain, I'm laughing because I know what she's going through. When you first have the baby, for some reason, I don't know if it's the amount of sucking or it's just how sensitive our breasts truly are, that you really don't realize that when the baby is sucking, it's a lot of force, and so it really does hurt. And the lactation consultant, like I said before, when I first had my son, she would tell me, no, if it hurts, then you're doing it incorrectly, and you need to reposition him, maybe try the football hold. And she's telling me all these different holds, and I'm like, no, whatever hold it is that you're telling me to do, it still hurts. And so it made me feel like a failure, because I'm listening to what she's saying, and she's telling me that if it's hurting me, then I'm doing it incorrectly, and so it's making me second guess myself. So now I know, no, you're incorrect, that this stuff really does hurt, and what you're telling me is incorrect, and basically get the F up out of my room. Because the fact of the matter is, no shade to whomever, but if you have not breastfed a child, then there's no way that you can tell me what it is that I should be feeling like, because you haven't went through the motions, you haven't went through any of it. So that covers the pain. Yes, it does hurt, but eventually it does go away. Your nipple and your breast will, I promise you, you'll be able to tow big rigs with how strong and how sturdy your nipples and your breast are after. For a while, as soon as you have the baby, you go through the pain, and you will go through cracking. Your nipples will crack, and they will bleed. But that does go away. One thing that, that helps a lot is the Lanolin. If you guys can see this, but this is Medela Lanolin. I got this from the hospital, and this is one thing you guys can do too. When you're in the hospital, they have tons and tons of these things. So what I was doing was, because this stuff is actually kind of costly when you go to the store, what I would do is whenever it would be feeding time, I would ask the nurse, can you please bring me a bottle of Lanolin? And so by the time I left the hospital, I had like 20 bottles. And so, you know, that lasted me, of course, until I didn't need them anymore. But what you can do is, if you're in the hospital or you know, you're about to start breastfeeding, or even while you're pregnant, just kind of coat your nipples in these, just so that they can build, I don't want to say build a tolerance for it, but just to prepare you for breastfeeding. Well, that's that. So that's the Lanolin. If you are bleeding and you're cracking, and they will get dry, and you'll look down, you might want to cry because they hurt so bad. Just put a little bit of this on them. It's safe for the baby to eat. It's not like they're eating tubes of it. They're just eating a little bit as you breastfeed. But that's the Lanolin. So just rub it on it if you're cracking or bleeding. A lot of times you can just express milk too, and you can pat that on your breast and on your nipple, and that will help a lot as well. Let's talk about different holds. Different holds for the baby. I would say my favorite hold, if I'm sitting, is a football hold. So you would like put the baby's head here, and then the baby's body will come across this way. And so that way, you know, they have that one boob, and you can easily put them in the nook of your elbow. Put a pillow underneath you, and that way you're supported, and the baby is supported too. When I'm breastfeeding, I like to lay down with my kids because it's much more comfortable. I just put a pillow over my head, underneath my head, and then I lay them down the same way I'm laying. So it's kind of like a reverse spoon. You know, it's spooning. One person is this way, another person is this way. No, so it's like this. You guys are together side by side, and then they would just be breastfeeding and just laying right beside you, and you guys are kind of, you know, embracing. Plus, you can look at it like a little break. You get a little 10, 15-minute break every 2 to 3 hours. You know, just take some time out of your day to really enjoy breastfeeding. Let's see what else I can talk about. Pumping. As far as pumping goes, I pumped with a few of the kids. I was fortunate enough, thank you, hubby, to not work when I was, to not work ever, but during breastfeeding, I didn't have to work for the 2 years. And so I didn't really have to pump. So the only time I would have to pump is if we went out and, you know, in-laws or whomever it was, or watching the kids would have some milk for the baby. But with pumping, a lot of times, or people don't really understand that your milk production, it has a lot to do with our brains. That's how our brain releases the hormone into having a letdown. Having a letdown is when, you know, the milk builds up and then it comes down. A lot of times you don't have letdowns when you're pumping because there's no baby there to trigger their hormones. So a lot of times when I was pumping, a lot of milk wouldn't come out. I probably would get 4 to 5 ounces, if that. And so I would have to come back home pretty quick because she wouldn't have enough milk. And no matter what I did, no matter how long I sat there and tried to pump, nothing would really come out. Or if you're having problems with your milk supply, try to take a minute out to regroup and refocus. Because a lot of times as moms, you know, we have so many things going on. We're thinking about so many different things that we're not really focusing on the time it is that we're breastfeeding. And so within that time, instead of focusing on our baby and on, you know, the actual skin-to-skin contact, our mind might be elsewhere. And so when our mind is elsewhere, then it affects our letdown. So, you know, when you're breastfeeding, just take the time out to sit back and really take that moment in so that you can have your letdown and you can, you know, give your baby the food that it needs. There's a lot of people who take different lactation teas, mommy teas. I know the Honest Company has a really good pill. It's called Lactation Plus, and it's on the Honest Company on their website, and I'll leave that link. Another thing I'll talk about right now too, since it's on my mind because I was going through my Instagram comments. Weight with breastfeeding. I'm not gonna lie. When I'm breastfeeding, I don't exercise and I don't diet. The reason for that is I feel, and this is how I feel that within those 2 years, that's the most important years of their life. So I can, you know, sacrifice myself for those 2 years to make sure that I, you know, devote the time that they need and everything that they need to do it. Because if I start losing weight or if I start exercising too much, it will get rid of my reserves. And I know that my body needs my reserves to make milk. Your body can't make milk if you don't have fat. And then how else can I put it? If you don't have fat, your body can't really make milk. And if your body's trying to pull from if your body's trying to pull from your body to make the milk and there's nothing there to pull, then guess what? Your milk will dry up because there's nothing there. So I don't work out, and I don't diet. And quite frankly, I eat more now that I'm breastfeeding than I did when I was pregnant. And I mean, at the end of the day, it does make sense, because when you're pregnant, the baby's small. It's a very small human that you have to provide sustenance for. But when you're breastfeeding, your baby grows into a toddler, and then from a toddler, they get pretty big. And so if that's all that you have to give, like a lot of us exclusively breastfeed for the first year or so, which is what I do, I need to eat a lot, more than the 500 calories that it is that they say. So instead of having one salad, I may have 2 salads. Instead of having 1 turkey burger, I may have 2 turkey burgers, plus a large fry and a big drink. And I will be okay, because I know that, my body needs whatever the food is that I'm eating to be able to make milk. I'm not saying, go out and go to Krispy Kreme and eat 2 dozen donuts and think that that's okay. No, kind of be smart with your choices, or else your baby weight will never come off. Just make sure that the things that you're eating are actually, good food. Like I said, turkey burgers. I like turkey burgers. You can make turkey burgers protein style with just the lettuce, or you can, add whole wheat bread, or make homemade fries and stuff like that. So just, eat a lot to make sure that your body is keeping up with the demand that your baby's asking for. But just make, smart choices so that, you're still happy with your body and how it looks and the amazing things that it's doing. Don't ever second guess yourself, or don't ever, feel bad of how your body looks, or the extra weight that you have, or how your nipples look, or how your breasts now hang. It's for a reason. You gave birth to a beautiful human being, and now you are making milk to keep that human being alive. And so your body's not only for show, it actually does some amazing things. So I do definitely want to let you guys know not to beat yourself up, and everything will be okay. I personally have side skirts galore. I have muffin top. I have stretch marks on my breasts, a lot of them, because when you're breastfeeding, your breasts grow sometimes twice in size, and then when you stop when you stop breastfeeding, they go down, and with that, the skin stretches, and it's okay. I'm accustomed to it. It is what it is. These are things that make me me, and so I've learned to love them, and I will continue to love them as they are. Somebody asked me, what are the stores that have the best nursing rooms? Honestly, I have no idea. I will breastfeed my kid and not give 2 shits where I am. I could be in the lawn section in the patio section of Target, and I will whip my boob out, because my child needs to eat. And I mean, of course, sometimes I'll cover up, but sometimes I don't have a cover up, and I can't force her. I mean, I cannot put her on the back burner and put somebody else's comfort level ahead of her hunger. So she will always come first. So I honestly, to answer that question, I don't know who has the best nursing rooms. I will breastfeed in the car. I'll breastfeed at the store. I'll breastfeed in the doctor's office. I'll pull my boob out as we're sitting here talking. That's just how comfortable I am with that. We can talk about latching issues. I know when I had my first, it was hard to get him to latch on, because I have pretty big boobs, and honestly, my boob was probably bigger than all of my children's heads, and so it looked kind of funny trying to get such a big boob into such a small mouth. But eventually they get it. It's just their mouth just needs to get over the nipple and just a little bit of the areola. Is that how you say it? I don't know. Excuse me. But they just need to get a little bit of that. And most of the of course, all of the nipple. Because if they're only sucking on the nipple, that's what will drive you insane, and that's what will really cause you pain. But if you're having latching issues, just stick with it. I promise you, within 2-3 days, all of the pain and all of the emotions that you feel will go away. Right now, it may seem like it's a lot, but I can't even stress it enough that it's worth it. I have, like I said, all of my kids have been breastfed, and I can tell the difference between babies and kids who were not breastfed when they were younger. Like, my kids rarely get sick, and when they get sick, maybe it's for a day or something like that. And like, my kids are bigger than the majority of the kids, you know, who weren't breastfed their age. Like, you can tell. Like, it's a really, really big difference. And my kids are very, very smart. I honestly feel that breast milk could save the world, and that's just, you know, how I truly feel. It's a lot of health benefits and all kind of benefits. Even when the kids get sick sometimes who don't breastfeed, I'll give them breast milk. That stuff is like liquid gold. Okay, what other questions do I have on here? I have questions about the pain from breastfeeding when you're, or how after you have a C-section. My first 2 children were born via C-section, and the thing that's hard with breastfeeding with a C-section is that you're in so much pain from the C-section that bending over the crib and then bending back and then bending down to feed them, it is a bit much, and it hurts like hell. And God forbid you cough, you know, while you're healing from your C-section. You will feel like all of your intestines will be on the ground. But I mean, one thing that I can say, you know, if you're breastfeeding and you've had a C-section, is the easiest thing that I did, and some people will say that, you know, it's lazy, is that I co-slept. The kids co-slept with, you know, my husband and I, and that was easy for me. I didn't have to keep bending down and going into the crib and picking them up and overexerting myself, which, you know, some of people, their wounds will end up opening from doing all of that. So at night, they would just sleep with us in the bed, and I, you know, would make sure that my husband didn't roll over on the baby, but you would just sleep with them. You don't have to bend down. You don't have to do anything. You just roll over, pop your boob, feed them, burp them, roll back over, and you go back to sleep. Same thing throughout the day. Like, my kids hardly were in the crib because for me, it was just so much easier to keep them on my bed, so I can lay with them, feed them. I don't have to bend over and bend back and forth to go into the crib. So, you know, if you're breastfeeding and you just recently had a C-section, you might want to think about just, you know, keeping them on your bed. Of course, you know, keeping them safe, but just doing it that way. That way you don't have to keep bending and hurting your wound, because I know, oh my gosh, that stuff hurts. As far as weaning, I'll talk about that. I have that. I weaned, like I said, I weaned my kids around 2 years old. And by that time, I feel like they're damn near raping me. Like, if we go out, they'll be pulling on my clothes and screaming, "Mama! Yum, 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 yum!" They're screaming whatever it is that they're screaming, and people are looking at me like, what the hell is going on? Like, my daughter's hungry. There's nothing I can do. So, most of the time, I wean them at 2. And the only way that I'm able to wean, because it hurts so bad, is I go out of town. So, with my last daughter, when she was like 2, maybe 2.5, something like that, my husband and I went to Vegas. So we went to Vegas for 3 days, and within that 3 days, I was able to, you know, get her off of the boob, and it made it easier for me because I wasn't able to give in to the pain. Once, you know, the engorgement comes on, it's so easy to just be like, okay, well, forget it, let me just feed her, and then you have to start your weaning process back over. So when you go out of town, or when I went out of town, I just had to deal with the pain. And once, you know, the engorgement went away and my milk dried up, that was it. I came back home, and she was already accustomed to not having the boob. I mean, she was staring at them like, you know, am I going to eat or what am I going to do? But for the most part, she already knew it was a wrap. So weaning does hurt because, you know, your breasts will engorge and they will fill completely up. But it does, you know, within like 2 or 3 days, you should be fine. I'll talk about mastitis. I don't know if that's how you say it. Maybe I should Google the word. I don't know. But mastitis, I've had that twice. And that pain is ridiculous. The first time I had it, I took the antibiotics that my doctor prescribed. The second time I had it, I didn't take anything. I just did warm compresses in the shower and just really rub, because most of the time with mastitis, you can feel which duct is clogged and which duct has the infection. And so I would just rub in the shower with the hot water and also with the towel, and just constantly keep trying to get the milk flow, keep the milk flow and going out. So I would pump, and between me pumping, I would feed her just to try to hurry up and get the milk to come out and get this bacteria and get this infection out. I'm not really big on medicine, but when I did take the when I did take the antibiotics, I wasn't where I am now as far as, medicine is concerned. So, but the natural route for me is way better than taking the antibiotics. I think it was gone within a day or two. I did get the fever, severe pain. My boob, in that part did turn red, but it did go away. So like I said, you guys can do the warm compresses, massage it, just keep pumping and just keep trying to feed them in like overdose on water to try to get it out. Speaking of water, in the summertime, us breastfeeding moms, you need to really, really drink a lot of water. That, has a lot to do with it, in keeping your milk supply up, because it's so hot we easily get dehydrated. So it's not only that we're trying to hydrate ourselves, we have a little human to keep hydrated as well. During the summer, I'll drink about 3 of these a day. This is 1.5 liters. So I'll drink about 3 of these. They're not hard to finish at all. It's not even that much water. But basically, you can drink those. Let me go back to Instagram, start answering more of these questions before I end this video. One big thing too about supply is that the majority of the time, and I'm not saying all of the time, it's supply and demand. So if your supply is low, then you might want to up the demand. Meaning, let's say your daughter's only eating every 4 hours. Try to get them to eat every 2. And if they don't want to eat every 2, then pump every 2. Because the more that your body feels that there's more of a demand, then the more your body will make the supply to meet that demand. Your body will do, what it needs to do to give your baby what he or she needs. Question that I get: does a letdown or will the pain from my milk coming in go away? It feels like sore muscles when it's coming in. No, I don't think that ever goes away. Like I said, she's 19 months, and when I have a letdown, I have to hold my boob because it does hurt. The pain, I think the intensity of the pain varies, but the pain will always be there. Maybe it might be a tingling this time. One time it might feel like I'm getting stabbed. It really depends. I don't know what it depends on. It could be depending on how much milk is coming out. I don't know, but it does hurt. And then another question that I had too is, sometimes you leak. Whenever you're leaking, yes, we leak like faucets. I remember when I didn't know about the leaking, and so I went out to Babies R Us to get him some diapers and whatever else I need to get. And as I'm in the store, it looked like somebody was shooting me with a water gun just straight on my nipples, though, because the milk just started shooting out, and it was very embarrassing to say the least. So that was the last time I ever walked out without breast pads on. So leaking, we do leak. Make sure that you get your breast pads. Leaking typically only really occurs like the first 2 to 3 months, because after that your body gets into the motion of, when it's time for the baby to eat. And if you're not around your baby, then yes, you will leak. If I'm in the store and I'm couponing, or if I'm in the store or whatever, and I hear a baby cry, my body will start shooting out milk, and I have to run from one side of the store to the other side of the store to get away from the baby, because I won't have pads on. And so, walking around with a wet shirt for no reason is not cool, even though, some guys may think it's cool. It's not cool. For prenatal vitamins, yes, I still take them. I take the ones that have the DHA. I don't know where my bottle is right now, and I didn't put it beside me, so I don't know which ones. I think I was using Nature Made. I'm not sure. I can't remember. Teething. Got that one too. Yeah, they bite. when their teeth start coming in. For some reason, they think you're a chew toy or a teether. I don't know what it is, but teething is one of the scariest times during breastfeeding because your life is in their hands. At any given moment, they could just chomp down and boop, there goes your nipple. Like, there's nothing you can do. But the one thing that I do is when they teeth, I let them know that's not okay. So I will, remove my nipple from their mouth and let them sit for a while. And it kind of creates a cause and effect. If you bite me, I will remove your food source. And so it takes a few times, but they get the picture. I've never actually been bitten, like to the point where, blood was coming out. But I've been bitten pretty hard. My daughter, I don't know if she's an acrobat, but she will eat at the same time she's trying to watch TV. At that same time, she's trying to pull my hair. And then at the same time, she's doing like some leg headstand. I don't know what she's doing, but she's doing it all at the same time as I'm still being attached to my nipple. So you would think that, part of my nipple is part rubber and part breast, but yeah, for the most part, they're busy. They want to do everything at the same time as eating, so they might do a backflip while being attached to your nipple. That's just what they do. And does it hurt? Yes, it hurts. And then you just kind of take your nipple back and say, no, please don't do that ever again in life. And then you just give your nipple back. But like I said before, breastfeeding for me, is a very important time. And, at the end of the day, it's just, it's up to you how long you want to breastfeed. Some people breastfeed for a year, some people breastfeed for 2 years, some people breastfeed, longer than that. But whatever it is just sacrificing and making sure that, your child has the best foundation that you could possibly give them. Breastfeeding helps them, learn better in school, helps them with their health. They don't get sick as much. They grow a lot faster. They're very, very healthy. I have my daughter my third daughter, she was in my womb for 42 and a half weeks. And then I breastfed for her for 2.5 years. I promise you, she's built like a tank. She rarely gets sick. We call her chunky, but she's not chunky, but she's solid, like solid. Everything about her is just solid. And I feel that, she did perfect as far as, how long, even though for me 42 and a half weeks was pure hell, but for her, it was exactly what she needed, and I was happy to give that to her. As far as weight loss goes, a lot of people talk about that some people lose all of their baby weight within 6 weeks, and I did it all from breastfeeding and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's good and all, but a lot of people don't work like that. I don't lose all of my baby weight the first 6 weeks. I lose a lot of it, but my body holds on to reserves until I'm completely done breastfeeding. So I may get back to my pre-pregnancy weight minus 5 pounds or even lower than that, because it just depends on how much I was eating while breastfeeding. But for the most part, your body does need something, so it will hold on to whatever it needs to hold on, no matter how rigorous you work out, no matter how much you diet, no matter how much you do anything. Your body knows what it needs. So those extra 5 pounds that you cannot get rid of, it needs to stay. Your baby needs it. So leave it there, and I promise you, the minute that you stop breastfeeding, if you weren't overeating and you weren't eating 3 million donuts a day, then it will come off the minute you stop breastfeeding, and your body will, for the most part, go back to how it was. Your breasts will return back how they were. Your stomach will return back how it was. Breastfeeding for me, I do really well with the weight. And it does help you lose a lot of weight. You don't have to do anything. Like I said, my daughter right now is 19 months, and I'm past my pre-pregnancy weight. I've lost maybe, I think, even 5 extra pounds than before I got pregnant, and that's all from breastfeeding. Breastfeeding burns a lot of calories. You can be dripping sweat sitting down doing absolutely nothing. It's because your body is working internally to, produce milk, and milk production burns calories. So, there's one way that you can look at breastfeeding. You can look at it as a calorie burner, a way to lose weight, and you're helping your baby at the same time. There was something I was going to talk about too. The Boppy pillow. I had a Boppy pillow at my first, and that was the last Boppy pillow that I ever bought. I don't like the Boppy pillow at all. The whole time that my baby's on the Boppy pillow, I'm so concerned with him flipping off of the pillow, because the pillow has like a weird shape and it's pretty hard. And so, yes, it gives you like a little bit of support and pushes them up a little bit so that, you know, they're the same height as your breast, but it doesn't conform to, you know, your baby's head or however it is that he or she is laying. So for me, after using my Boppy pillow a few times, I think I start using it like as a regular pillow for me to sit on and for the baby to sit on. Like I didn't use it anymore for breastfeeding. I like using regular pillows. And you know, that's something that you got to kind of, if you don't know how to use it, you have to kind of work your way up to it. Just put the regular pillow around your waist and you let them lay on it. And so they would lay on their side same way as they will with the Boppy pillow. The only difference is it's comfortable and the pillow conforms to the grooves of their neck and their stomach, and it it helps you because now you're not focusing the entire time on them falling off. And so a lot of times they fall asleep faster because as they're laying down, their head is being supported and they're just eating. And then so basically they just eat themselves to sleep. Nothing better in life than that, right? To eat yourself to sleep. Well, if you guys have any other questions, you can leave them in the comments and I will try to respond to them as best as I can. I know I'm going to also do a video on VBACing, which once again is vaginal birth after C-section. I'm going to try to split these videos up because this one is kind of long. I'm looking at it, 35 minutes. That's like longer than a TV series. So my fault for that. You know, like I said, I'm very passionate about breastfeeding and just children and stuff like that in general. So I tend to be a bit long-winded, and like at least this time I didn't venture off too far from the subject at hand. So that's it. Hope you guys are having an awesome day.